Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventurers. I'm your guide, Jason. There is a saying that clothes make the man. So, shouldn't the equipment make the adventurer? What would be the best piece of equipment you could carry? Sword, bow, staff? What about armor, plates, and gambeson? Well, due to that being an insanely wide statement, let's start with just one piece of equipment. One which I have often praised. The unassailable, invincible, defensible shield. Your sturdy shield has taken the blows of goblins, mages' fireballs, and dragon claws. It is a necessity, and it has been a staple of many military formations, such as the hoplite of the Greeks. Yes, a shield is very important. So let's see what the best shield would be for a fantasy adventurer, such as yourself. Now those who know their history in fantasy are probably aware that shields come in a lot of different types. Thousands at least. So let's focus on the big ones. And I think that we should start with what is likely the simplest. One which is often seen throughout Africa, such as the Ishilangu shield. The very plain hide shield. A simple piece of tanned hide stretched between a wooden frame. And many of you are probably thinking that this would likely break on the first blow, or a sword would slice easily through the hides. Well, that can happen. I won't pretend it won't. But here is the ultimate thing about armor. Its job is to protect you. If your armor is torn to ribbons and your shield smashed, but you are unharmed due to them, then they did their job. You can replace the shield, but not your life. But of course, one which can last one fight and into the next is definitely better. However, there is an advantage. Weight. These kinds of shields are rather light, which can make them easy to carry over long distances. And if it breaks, you could easily repair or replace it. And this brings up the real advantage of these shields. What are they made of? I already said leather and wood. Nothing which would stand up to the charging manticore or the Groot sling. But that is it! Who said that these shields would be of cowhide? No. Let's make these shields out of the hide of a nearly invincible monster. Dragons, manticore, the Nemean lion. Creatures whose hides are legendary for their durability. What if we could make a shield out of one of these? Now it's going to be tougher. Yet, you did pierce these monsters' hides, right? That means that even they will have a breaking point. You also need the wooden frame made of something a bit tougher, else it'll just break and then you have no shield. But there are magic woods too. And there is an oddity I want to talk about. I'm sure a few of you have taken a physics class and understand that rule about conservation of energy. Short version, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only changed from one form to another. That means when I strike a shield with a warhammer, all that kinetic energy has to go somewhere. And that is into your shield and out as sound. But that force applied to your shield will then be applied to your arm. And it is possible to break your arm with enough force. Yet a hide shield will have a bit more give when struck, and that can help disperse the force of the impact and protect you. So actually, if you could use stronger materials, this could be a fairly solid shield for a fantasy adventurer. Don't you think so? What about a large wooden shield? Something like a Viking shield. Multiple wooden planks braced together, sometimes including iron fittings on the outside and a shield boss in the middle. Sometimes you see them covered in hides. Generally, these are an upgrade to the simple hide ones without magic. Now, the shield boss isn't just decorative, it does serve a function. First, it can provide stability and a handle. But the shield boss can be used to help trap and guide your opponent's blade. Beautiful. If you can stop an opponent from fighting back or delay their strike a few seconds, that can be the difference between victory and defeat. But that shield boss isn't going to work well against a massive predator. Oh, something the size of a lion, it can delay for a moment, or keep their claws off you. But anything the size of an elephant, it won't work. But against a human-sized foe, it'll be fine. And it should be sturdier than the hide shield, but a bit heavier. You won't get any cushioning on impacts if you take a blow straight on, and your arm might go numb after a few blows. You'll likely want to find some form of durable magical wood, or make a lacquer using a potion to enhance it. And at this size, you could form shield walls and help protect allies beside you. But would metal shields be better? These would be harder to break than hide or wooden shields, And there is a lot of variety here, some which are solid metal, and others which are metal over leather over wood, and a few other variations. But they have a hard metal surface exposed to your foe. These can cover everything from buckler shields to tower shields. We also get some like heaters and kite shields, which are either made of metal or wood, depending on where and when they were made. Now, in a fantasy world, these shields could be anything from bronze, iron, and steel, to adamantine, or calcum, or mithril. Metals which are said to be nearly as tough as dragon scale, and in mithril's case, as light as a feather. This could make shields much easier to lug along long trips. And there will be issues with them. Let's start with the buckler. It is generally a small shield, but it is relatively light, and if held outward, can actually defend a large area. And here's where I do need to knock it though. Many magical monsters have breath attacks, either fire or poison or frost for example. This is the reason I prefer larger shields. Now things like a heater shield should be able to cover you if you crouch down enough, and that could be a guiding principle for size. You want a shield that you can hide behind. If the dragon's breath attacks can't reach you, then you'll be fine. And that is why I think larger shields have an advantage. It can block the deadly breath attacks and spells that you will likely face. But this brings up an issue. Metal shields will conduct heat and cold, which could reach your hand. Oh, and then we got lightning, which means a solid metal shield might be a bad idea against spells. And this is why I mentioned the wood being covered, such as the legendary Spartan shield called the Aspis. This was made of wood, then covered in leather, and finally bronze. Wood is a poor heat conductor, which can help protect you from such attacks. Now, tower shields would offer the largest area of protection to be sure, and they would make it difficult for most foes to strike back, which is a good thing to be sure. But there is an issue with larger shields: maneuvering them. Not an issue in woods or plains, but indoor fights such as a tavern brawl, the Thieves Guild, or dungeons where things get narrow. You can't swing the shield about to block incoming attacks as effectively, and if someone gets to your side or behind you, well, good luck. Oh, I'm not done. Those shields would be cumbersome to climb and carry, even if they are made from some ultralight fancy metal. You'll have to deal with its size. It seems that there might be an optimum size for shields in fantasy worlds. There is one kind of shield I do want to touch on: an archer's shield, or pavis. Now, I know most fantasy games don't include them, like they were used in history, but archers and crossbowmen would carry this as a portable cover that they can set up. It is big enough that they can crouch behind, and shaped that it will stand on its own. There are a few variations, but generally the same. This could also be used by spellcasters in chaotic battles. Great use. Put down your shield and lob spells from behind it. Definitely something someone would use. But we need to talk about how you hold the shield. There are two main options: strap it on or have a handle, and each has issues. With a handle, it can be dropped or knocked from your grasp, and if that happens, it's gone, clattering on the ground where it might be a tripping hazard. Sure, you could pick it up, but so could your foe, and now they have protection. However, if you strap it on, what would happen if a dragon bites down on your shield? Well, then it could lift you up and swing you around like a dog with a chew toy. That would likely end up being fatal to be sure. Ideally, against larger and stronger foes, you may want one that you can escape from quickly. Of course, I don't know if a shield would protect you from a giant's club, no matter what it is made from. Probably better to focus on dodging attacks rather than blocking. Sure, even against a human-sized foe, if they can pull you off balance in a fight, you'll probably lose. And this brings up the final shield, a magic shield. One made of pure energy and operates like any other shield. This is pure fantasy, with no real-world equivalents to be sure. It would basically have no weight, but might fatigue you out by draining your mana. So a potential trade-off. If it is floating, then there is no impact from attacks transferred into you, which will save you. Oh, and then you get both hands open. Of course, it could be counterspelled, which would leave you defenseless. Assuming that this does work exactly like a regular shield, there shouldn't be any problems. But what about enchanting the shield? There are nearly limitless spells that you could put on a shield. One to make you stronger, make you immovable. But honestly, I think the best for a shield would be one of repulsion. something that makes it harder to strike the shield and pushes foes' attacks away. If they can't strike you, then it's the perfect shield, right? So the final verdict will be based on what materials you have, and that could be your preference, and depends on how the materials do work. Overall, I would say a shield which is big enough for you to hide behind, but small enough to maneuver. I'd say about 2 to 3 feet, 0.6 to 1 meter wide shields. And I would choose one that has a shield boss to help trap opponents' blades, and those also promote handles, which I feel are going to be easier in a fight, and less likely to be used to pull you onto the ground. The hide shield might actually be useful in a fantasy world, assuming that you can bolster their structural integrity. What do you think, adventurers? Which style of shield would you choose? Honestly, a shield should probably be standard for an adventurer. Thank you for watching. Please return next time. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.